Welcome in and happy holidays. We are The Meltdown here with what is set to become a Christmas classic. Yes, Terrifier 3 is a movie that hit theaters around Halloween, but is one we're still thinking about and talking about this many months later because it is set there around the Christmas season. I am Tim Melton. That is my broadcast colleague, Mr. Tyler Lionel Johns. We are live every day, 2 o'clock Central, 3 o'clock Eastern, and we are joined by, is it fair to say, Terrifier superfan Brian Pavlick? Are you there?
I've done in my life to get that. And the reason we're still thinking of it is not because of Christmas. It's just what did we see 2 months ago where we go, I still remember that. And still, oh my God, I can't wait to talk about this with you guys.
Let's get into it. Brian, why does this franchise work, in your opinion? Lay it out for us. What is the formula that makes this thing such a hit with gore hounds, for sure?
Here is the two biggest. In a film, whether it's horror, whether it's comedy, or anything else, you have to have an iconic character. And I'm not just talking about, Star-Lord from Guardians of the Galaxy is iconic or something. No, you have to have a look, you have to have a personality, and Art the Clown does that. You can see a poster, a drawing of something, and there's no deviation from it. The perfectness of the black and white is just so easy to just put out there and you go, that is Art the Clown. I think you have to have that iconic character, number one. This does that.
And some people see Art the Clown and they're immediately terrified. Others see Art the Clown and they start to laugh. That is sort of the magic of Art the Clown. He can really elicit so many different responses, for sure.
That would have been 2.5 if I rated. But the second biggest thing, and I think this is why the three of us got suckered into seeing this. The word of mouth. Seeing the first, going, I can't believe I saw that. Seeing the second and going, did you see that? Seeing the third and said, what did we see? That's how this snowball affects into almost $100 million. Is this what this movie has made on a $2 million budget?
Tyler, these films, in talking about the marketing for these and the build-up, these films are always marketed as being endurance tests. People passing out, people getting sick. I'm really impressed with how well this film, especially in Terrifier 3, balances the extremes in the script with what they actually show on screen. It's sort of a wink and a nod. On paper, this film should not be mainstream level popular.
Correct. Correct. And even with the way it released, it still shouldn't be mainstream because this was an unrated film released outside of all MPAA guidelines, all
Mm.
studio interference, and the word of mouth and social media marketing was just so strong that people had to go see it. I still can't believe what I saw.
And they handle the balance of the violence you see on screen with what's implied, with what they handle
Yes.
that really well because there's a lot of triggers in this movie potentially for a lot of people.
And one you mentioned to me before you went to see it because me and Brian went to go see it before you ended up being able to, was you were worried about the violence towards the kids in this movie and that just being a huge line in the sand for you and saying if they cross this, I don't want any part in it.
And
And
I can appropriately say now that they handled it the correct way on
This
screen.
movie, yeah.
if you've got what happens in the script, you either handle it the way they handled it
Yeah.
or you're in a bunch of hot water even with the gore hounds because that is still a line like it is for you for a lot of people. Nobody
Right.
wants to see a kid get hurt in a horror movie.
This movie gets very close to that line multiple times.
God, two that I know of.
Multiple
A
times.
mall scene and a bedroom scene in particular.
Well, yes. Let's get into Terrifier, the trilogy.
Ooh.
Because Terrifier 1, in my opinion, had far too little story. Terrifier 2 had maybe too much story stuffed in, felt a little overstuffed at times, lengthier running time for sure. But I like Terrifier 2 more than 1. Terrifier 3 feels like that right mix, like they're finally getting that balance down of story and spectacle. Like that's what we're getting. We're getting the kills there from Art the Clown that people sign up for, but we're also getting a nice bit of lore built within the Terrifier universe.
Yes, there are three elements to this movie that make it magical. One is Art the Clown. That's it. Second is the balance of the jokes slash Christmas. So it's the horror and the happy feelings of comedy and Christmas. So it's a perfect blend. The third, it's a little lacking, but it's getting better, is the backstory, and it's the other character development, because there were some times when you were just hoping, "Just get Art back on the screen. This is good, and the actors are great, but get Art back on the screen." Third is getting these characters and the development to come along a little bit more. So while it wasn't as strong as the Christmas funny parts and the actual gore parts, it was still a good third healthy balance ingredients of why I think this one was
Yeah.
better than 1 and 2.
You've mentioned Art the Clown a
Mhm.
lot, and rightfully so,
Yeah.
the star of this franchise for sure. But Sienna is a perfect final girl
Yes.
and will be in the discussion for one of the most important final girls in horror history when all is said and done, in my opinion. These two characters complement each other greatly, don't they?
I agree. Yes, they do. Sienna has all of the trauma that someone like Art causes just outside of her experiences
Mhm,
with Art the Clown. And I think that provides a nice psychological sort of look at it. You've also got the feelings of trying to protect her family.
mhm.
And with the third movie, she spends half the time just trying to convince her family that there is a
Yeah.
clown still lurking around there. And that always is a good sort of build up for conflict, in my opinion. But I really like what they're doing with Sienna's dad
Mhm.
and the artwork and the Valkyrie character. I love all the lore they're building, and it seems like they're
Yeah.
almost making it where Art is this ancient evil, and then Sienna is almost like the prophesized final girl
Yeah,
trying to take him out.
and it's almost, a little bit of religious context here where
Mhm.
you've got, evil and maybe even like a guardian angel, because now she's showing like at the second movie was all about the sword. Maybe the
Mhm.
magic is the sword. It's just the sword. Well, no, no, no. It actually may be her and her abilities in a guardian angel type role, because as you remember, she had that kind of regenerative things that happen with her hands. So it's like, wait a minute, who is this chick? And maybe we need to explore that a little bit more. So I think you just have this classic good versus evil characteristic. I do think there's going to be a little bit more religious connotations in the fourth one about it. Given the fact, sadly we did see like a crown of thorns and stuff like that in that horrifying last bit, act three. But I see it taking on maybe that kind of context where it wasn't ever the sword. It was the person wielding the sword.
Let's talk about franchise highs here because if you were to take the most iconic scene of the original Terrifier, it would be
The hacksaw.
it would be.
Yeah.
If you were to
Enough
take the
said.
most iconic scene of Terrifier 2, it would be
The bedroom.
that is correct.
And which I watch that scene now and laugh. And that's me, y'all. That is me. I don't know what happened to me. I used to be such a sweet young
You
man.
are
And
still.
and I don't know what happened, but I laugh so much at that scene now. And I think it's just him coming in with the bleach and just all happy and ah,
Okay.
what's wrong with me? Me, not
We
this movie.
I agree. This is basically a
Therapy.
this is therapy. So Terrifier 3, the most iconic scene will be I have a very strong contender for most iconic scene. Do you guys agree?
Shower
It
scene.
is the shower scene. It's the chainsaw shower scene.
I used to like chainsaws.
Well, let me tell you the mistake I made, Brian Pavlick, in this movie. I ordered a hot dog for this movie, and that is not that is not the type of scene you want to sit
Ketchup was
there.
dripping off of it.
Oh, it was not a good move
Yeah.
on my part. I take half the blame. The hot dog, it took a long time to actually get it to me, which is why I ended up eating a hot dog in Terrifier 3. I haven't been able to look at a hot dog the exact same way since.
It's
It
it's great, but it's bad.
yeah. Let's talk about this. During the climax of Terrifier 3, this is where we start getting into heavy sort of plot.
Yeah.
During the climax of Terrifier 3, Vicky shows Sienna Jonathan's head,
Ooh.
revealing that she and Art the Clown killed her brother. Jonathan's off screen death
Mhm.
was so surprising that most fans don't really think he's dead, and they believe that Vicky was just lying to toy with Sienna. Do you think, Tyler, that Jonathan is actually dead?
You can argue either way. I think it makes sense for him to be dead because his character arc is kind of over. I mean, I
Mhm.
don't know what else he's really supposed to provide to the story that's missing. But at the same time, in that same scene, they showed another head and said, "Look, Sienna, this is Gabby's head."
Right.
And
And
it
it
was
wasn't.
not. It was not. Gabby is just fine.
Unreliable narrators
Yep.
are abound in this scene.
Mhm.
So are you on the side of Jonathan still alive, or they did an off-screen kill for one of the main characters of the show?
I think this is one of those audience reaction set up perfectly for YouTube views, Terrifier 4, Jonathan Returns type thing. I think it's set up that way. Um, I it was a shock to see, "Oh, that's him." And then when you kinda had that realization of, "Oh, Widow is off screen. Oh, we all know what happens off screen. That means it really didn't happen." I do think Jonathan's alive. Like Tyler said, though, perfectly, it's not gonna I'm not gonna care if he comes back. Be like, "Oh, great,
Yeah.
didn't see that coming." But I guarantee, like, the Terrifier reaction videos and stuff, "Oh, shit, I can't believe for Terrifier 4." That's what that's set up
I
for.
love that it's sort of undefined, Jonathan's
You
fate.
have to go back
That
and see.
you have to have these conversations. It's a great conversation starter for fans of the franchise.
Mhm.
So I'm all about them sort of leaving this up in the air, but I promise you this, he won't be featured in any of the marketing material for
That's
Terrifier
definitely
4.
true. But going back to what we were saying earlier about them handling the violence appropriately, that's a good case of that if Jonathan is dead
Yeah.
because he was his character was what, 17, 18?
He
Yeah.
was in college. He'd gone to
Yeah,
college. He was
18,
starting
19.
college. So
Yeah, so I still think that's kinda at the range where unless they're a camper that is just behaving every wrong way in a horror movie, we probably
I
shouldn't show them,
Yeah,
dying.
and maybe I'll clarify. Whether he's alive or dead, he shows up in 4, and I think it could even be a Return of the Jedi ghost thing with the dad and the
well,
brother
with the
giving
places
her
that
the
I could
extra
definitely see
power
that
that they
happening,
need,
yeah.
the Harry Potter,
yeah,
"We love you, son, kill Voldemort" type thing.
with the places that they're going, that it would not be a surprise at all.
Sure.
We've talked about those themes here. Brian, the franchise continues to overperform, continues to, with every entry, become more and more successful.
Mhm.
Will Terrifier 4 be the biggest Terrifier yet?
Has to be. I think you're gonna get a $5 million budget to work with, which just means more nope, because all Leone has now is time and creativity. He's got a plot. I think he knows how to end it. I think they said 4, I don't know how much
And
further you can
he
go.
also has a captivated audience that is ready to eat up anything that is put together. He knows it has to deliver better and better. Everyone, the pressure he puts on himself is
So,
probably intense.
it will be the best, but when do we start getting into what I call lost territory? Lost the TV show. Because there were so many theories and so many suggestions of what the island is and how it's gonna end and all that, that sometimes the fan submitted ideas on the Reddits of the world and things like that would actually be more creative so that you were let down. I guarantee when the Terrifier 4 is announced, you're gonna start seeing those threads about what are your predicted scenes, and somebody will throw out something completely off the wall where you'll be like, "Who is this person, and why do they have a vote that matters in this country?" And then you'll start reading those and going, "Oh, I can imagine that, I can imagine that," and they won't live up to those expectations. So I think there is a point of diminishing returns when it comes to the creativity of these things, but after the first 3 movies, nothing surprises me anymore as far as how far they go, but it will be the best.
Tyler, there's so many franchises looking to try to get healthy again. There's so many franchises that have petered out. This is not one of those. This is one that every entry becomes more iconic somehow or another. What is it about the Terrifier franchise that feels bulletproof?
Um, yeah, it's safe from a lot of the criticisms that you might levy at the big dogs in the slasher genre. Like, I mean, if Halloween released a movie under the Terrifier budget, you would dog it out all day, every day. It's like, this is the worst. I can't believe they would show such disrespect to the fans of this character. But
Even though, and let me point something out because I'm going to back you up with what you just said. The thing that made the original Halloween so iconic was
Minimal
the
budget.
restraints
yes.
on the budget.
Yep.
And then they started every sort of entry.
Mhm.
Mhm. And Damien Leone has said, I wanted Terrifier 3 to look like a vintage John Carpenter
Which
movie.
was great, the way it was shot and everything.
Made it with $2 million, which is still crazy low, even though it's like, what, like 5, 10 times as much as the first Terrifier was made for, or the second one as well.
Right.
Those had like bare bones budgets. But now we're getting into the millions of dollars, still wildly low for Hollywood standards. But how much further can we go without turning into
Yeah.
Halloween?
People
Well,
feel
yeah.
invested in this franchise,
Yes.
which is a rare thing where they're either financially invested, emotionally invested. They show up to the conventions to support this film, this cast, this crew. You feel like you're part of the team putting it together as an audience member, and that's a rare thing to find.
And you're getting small cameos. Chris Jericho as the male nurse from the beginning of the movie, and then Clint Howard in the bar scene, the guy who was watching Santa and all
Tom
that.
Savini.
Tom Savini. So you're getting these characters, these people that have Instagram followers and all that. Now they're saying, I'm endorsing this movie because I'm in it. So it brings a little bit of their fans along. I think another reason why it's so popular is because it is so over the top. And I really had this moral dilemma with myself of saying, when would I ever feel comfortable showing my kids this movie? Like, when does dad ever say, have you boys ever seen Terrifier 3? What age is that? And I don't know if it's going to be tomorrow,
No.
right? But at some point, you kind of, again, it's so over the top that you kind of, it distract from all the other things that are going on as far as the visuals and what is really happening, and you just kind of go, this is just so out of the ordinary. It's hilarious, actually.
My screening was full of teenagers
Yeah.
going to see this, all buying tickets to the Wild Robot and all going and watching this unrated spectacle that
We had
was
some people with us.
Terrifier 3.
We had some interesting people
Yeah,
in our
that was
screening.
the full moon at the summit night for us, my
I
friend.
hear you. I hear you.
Good lord.
Let's get into our final sort of review here for Terrifier 3. Out of 5, what would you give Terrifier 3? Because I personally believe
This is tough.
Terrifier 3 is best of the Terrifier franchise and is easily in the discussion for potentially the best horror movie of
I
2024.
have to set
Wow.
this up by saying, you know, I was never a horror fan for the first 20 something years of my life. And I don't know what flipped the switch. I mean, because I watched Gremlins and I watched Killer Clowns from Outer Space and Jaws and all that. And then I was thinking, what was my first like movie like this? It might have been House of a Thousand Corpses, Rob Zombie. Maybe that's when the gore part of it came in. And then Saw to me is still the all-time, just when it comes to thriller, when it comes to that type of horror, Saw won by far. So if Saw is 5, Terrifier 3 is 4, maybe 4.5 if I watch it again and really study a lot of the thematic elements. And again, it's the perfect balance of, how can I say there's humor in this? But it really is a funny movie. I guarantee if you took just the funny parts, you could still have a 30-minute short. That would be one of the funniest things, better than any sitcom on TV today.
People have referred to it as itchy and scratchy type humor.
Yes.
Yes.
Tom, Jerry, Itchy, Scratchy, the
That's
whole thing. That's
exactly what
exactly
it
what it is.
is.
It's a great balance of, God, I don't know what I just watched, but I am laughing my butt off. And that, again, I don't know why. It's a solid 4, not because of that type of horror genre, but it's just so iconic, and it's a healthy balance of a lot of things that make it so good.
Tyler?
I think I've got to go 4 out of 5 on this one. Um, if you grow up on the B horror, the House of a Thousand Corpses type stuff, the pre-code stuff like Wizard of Gore, uh, then this movie does a lot for your sort of
Appetite and taste.
your
Yeah.
appetite, your taste for film, the comfort foods, the things that you studied and looked up to as you were getting into it.
Mhm.
I mean, I think this is a future B horror classic, in
Yeah.
my opinion. This
Yeah.
entire franchise, just because it delivers those over the top visuals to a point where you don't feel disgusted watching it. You start laughing, and that's partially due, or mostly due to David Howard Thornton as Art the Clown.
So good.
His nonverbal acting is just so good. It is top notch. The bar scene with Clint Howard, that was one of my favorite parts of the entire movie.
I am going to go with a 3.5 out of 5. I'm not the biggest fan of the
Respectable.
Terrifier franchise. It kind of took me a little bit to go see this one even, but I walked away with a lot of respect for what it is. I walked away with a lot of respect for the movement behind this movie. It's not just a movie, it's a statement of like, we don't want to be controlled by all these outside creative forces. Let the creatives have some of the power and see what results in that. And it is tons of emotional, financial support from the audience. I love the story, the business profile of the Terrifier franchise, even more than the movies and the experience themselves. I enjoyed this movie most when it felt like it was a Hallmark or Lifetime Christmas movie and the town's getting ready for Christmas and there's decorations up. And then, oh, by the way, Art the Clown shows up. And to me, that worked really well as that sort of like feel good Christmas movie from the spectacle of the way the scenes are set up. And then for Art the Clown to sort of enter the mix. And that's what you get really in sort of the opening first few minutes of this movie, I feel like. So 3.5 out of 5 for me. I still think it's the best of the
You
franchise so
you
far.
said this movie was a movement for you?
This movie is a movement for the Hollywood studio system getting a shot across the brow.
I saw a glass shard in an attic scene. That wasn't a movement.
I hear you. Hey, one place you should be moving to, that is our title sponsor, MyBookie. Check them out, mybookie.ag, where you can bet on anything, anywhere, anytime. I am betting big on the Terrifier franchise moving forward. I really am thrilled with the business profile of this movie, and you'll be thrilled with your bankroll there at my bookie. Once again, where you can bet anything, anywhere, anytime. Use promo code next round with our title sponsor, mybookie.ag. Brian Pavlick, thank you so much for being here with us. I expect in your wardrobe, maybe next year,
Ooh.
a Art the Clown Christmas sweater at some point. It has to happen, and that's
At least the glasses and probably a really dirty beard. I think I could pull that off next year.
I like it very much. Tyler, enjoyed the conversation. That's going to do it for us here with this Terrifier 3 review. Is it a movie you're watching this holiday season? Let us know in the comment section below. Make sure you subscribe here to The Meltdown live daily, 2 o'clock Central, 3 o'clock Eastern.